Hi guys, thought I'd do a quick video on Mercedes W212 replacing rear springs, since there doesn't seem to be much on YouTube about this. And these springs are notorious for breaking down here, down in this area here. This particular car's 10 years old, relatively low mileage at 20,000, but I had to do two springs on it. Now here is your broken spring. And I've got another three more or less just like that. You can see corrosion gets in at the bottom and you end up with this stress corrosion and it snaps. I've just done 4 of these. Thought I'd let you know my preferred way of doing it. The official Mercedes WIS actually tells you just to compress the spring and take it out. Unless you've got a very good telescopic spring compressor, you may find that rather difficult. First thing you've got to do is remove the plastic cover at the bottom of the spring arm. It's just got little barbs that hold it onto the arm. I always find it useful to take this cover off as well, just to get access. And one of the simplest ways to do it basically just involves four bolts from front to back. You've got the connection from the spring arm onto the wheel carrier. It's an E20, and on the other side is 21mm nut. The drop link 13mm, and E12 shock absorber 16mm, E14, and the spring arm onto the subframe 18mm at one side, and T55. If you're doing it, I wouldn't use a 6-point as shown here, use a 12-point. I'm on 12 points in my other toolbox in the back of my other car. You can see in here, much better idea to use a 12-point. My own preferred method of removing this is loosen this, remove this, remove this. So this is a spring arm onto the wheel carrier, drop link, shock absorber. Take these out completely, only loosen this one here, remove the backbone onto the subframe whilst using a jack in here, and gently lower the arm down, removing the spring. Now when you go to reinstall, I find it quite beneficial to use a telescopic spring compressor because of the angle that the spring goes up. So what I'd usually do is compress the spring here with a telescopic spring compressor, jack it up at the back, let the spring out ever so slightly to get it to seat correctly, and once it's seated correctly, just keep doing that till you get it back in. One thing to note when replacing the spring, there's a shim on the bottom of the spring arm. Now those shims are usually very, very corroded, so I would recommend replacing those at the same time. In fact, I'm sure if you check with the Mercedes parts department, it will actually come up in their system and tell you to replace that at the same time. So this one here is now shiny and new and should be good for hopefully another few years to come. Hope you find that useful. Any questions, feel free to post them.